Are we here? We're here. Hey y'all, my name's Jay Wilson. I'm the lead Jet Reports consultant, trainer, and developer at Onyx Reporting. And I'm coming to you live on Saturday, June 24th, because I've got nothing better to do. No, I felt guilty. One of my subscribers down in Spain, Mario, asked me to do a sort of sums, and I promised I'd get it done during the week, and then life got away from me. So Mario, sorry about the delay, but here is that tutorial on how to do a sort by sum. Now, in order to know how to do a sort by sum, in order for this all to make sense, instead of just giving you the answer, there are three things that you're going to have to know how to do. The first thing you're going to have to understand is how to use quotes inside of Excel formulas. Then you're going to have to understand how to filter on a calculated field. Then lastly, you're going to have to do a sort by a calculation. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's figure out how to understand using quotes in a formula. Now, if I were to go into Excel and just start typing, the name of the book is The Hobbit. Okay, using quotes does not seem that difficult because we just, start typing and it works fine. But what would happen if I tried to turn this into a formula? So something wrapped, a string wrapped inside of quotes. So what would happen if I led with the equal sign, question mark? Now, I know you already know if you just want to put a text inside of as a string inside of a formula, right? No quotes, not a problem. Just do equals, open quote, end quote, and that's fine. But what if we try to use a double quote inside of a quote? Good Lord. The name of the book is The Hobbit. We know every string starts with a double quote and must end with a double quote, but because I'm trying to put The Hobbit inside of quotes, look at this interesting error that I get. Basically says there's a problem with the syntax of your formula. It doesn't work. Well, why doesn't it work? It doesn't work because I've got an open quote here and it's reading this as the first closed quote, at which point I'm trying to append this nonsense to the end of this string. I hope that makes sense. So what you have to do in order to use a quote, double quotes, inside of a string is you have to use, well, two double quotes. So I have quote, quote, The Hobbit, then I have quote, quote, and then to end the string, I need one more quote. That looks the same, doesn't it? Right? Look, there's the name of the book is The Hobbit. Notice this is not a formula, though. This is just text written into the cell, and now I've turned this into a formula because I led with the equal sign. Which of course is important if you wanted to continue the formula and say, well, I want to now concatenate this date up here, or what have you. Okay. All right. So that was a bit about quotes and formulas. In order to use quotes and formulas, you have to use a double quote when you're inside of a quote. Them's the truth. All right. Let's get on to some JET specific stuff. Let's take a look at filtering on calculated fields. What if you had a report requirement that said, hey, I need to see all transactions that came in on the weekend over the last year? Or in this case, I'm filtering, Or in this case, I'm saying, I want to see all activity that occurred from 2015 to 2017 on a Saturday. That's my reporting requirement. Now, you might say, well, gosh, there were a lot of Saturdays. There were 52 plus Saturdays in a year. How on earth am I going to just pick out each Saturday? And that's where this idea of a calculated field comes in. I'm going to show you the hard way of doing it first, and then I'm going to show you the shortcut easy way second. That's just what's going to happen. So if you want the TLDR version of it, skip ahead a couple minutes, but if you want the full lengthy, version of it, stick around. All right, so the hard way of doing this. I've got here an NLRows function that lists out all the transactions in my GL entry. I'm filtering by posting date. That part makes sense. And now we want to filter where the day of week is Saturday. Now, obviously, I can't just type in day of week is Saturday. That won't work. We know that won't work. I'll get a pound value error because the field in day of week does not exist on the GL entry. All right, I'm going to go ahead and press undo here to go back to a report that works. So step one in all of this is to be able to articulate day of week as a function in your report. And all I've done to articulate day of week is I've put in the text function, take whatever's in D26 and what's in D26, the posting date, and format it basically as DDD. So use a standard Excel function to convert a date into a day. I'm actually going to copy this. I'm going to copy the whole string, including the equal sign. Now in my jet function where I previously had day of week is equal to Saturday, right? We know I need to replace day of week with the calculated field. So I'm just going to paste in the calculation that I had earlier, equals, notice here we go with the string, right? This is why I did the whole, this is the Hobbit bit earlier. I'm leading with a quote. Then I'm putting a string together for what the calculated formula is. So I have equals text D26. Now here we know in order to have DDD inside of quotes, I have to have double quotes because I'm inside of the string. I'm inside of this string. Now when I press enter, this obviously doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Well, think about the execution order of a JET report. In order to show the NF function, I have to execute the NL rows first. And I'm saying here, oh, filter on the contents of D26. Well, D26 doesn't exist yet. But what is D26? D26 is the field posting date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace D26 with an NF function. The NF function says pull the field for this record. So I'm going to say, all right, I want the NF. Guys, what are the two arguments of an NF function? The two arguments of an NF function are the record key and then the field we want to pull. Because I'm inside of an NL rows function, I'm going to leave the first argument blank. So I'm not going to put in a record key. And then I'll just say I want to pull the posting date. And then I'll close the parentheses to indicate that's the end of my NF function. Now, of course, we know that because we're inside quotes, the text posting date needs to be wrapped in double quotes. And that should do it. Bam. If I change this to Sunday, come back to me, friend. Do I have any Sundays? Maybe I don't have any activity on Sundays. Oh, you're thinking so hard. Oh man, you don't like Sundays. Let's go back to Monday because I know Monday works. What? Oh, I broke it. Anyway, I know this works. So Trust me on this. So that's the hard way of adding these filters to your reports. But what I do want to show you is I want to show you what it looks like when you try to copy this outside of the function and then just paste it into Excel. Jet will try to, or Excel will translate in this into equals text, NF, comma, single quote, blah, blah, blah. But what it has to do is it has to be, just like we did with the name of the book as a Hobbit, it has to start with an equal sign, has to start with an open quote. You have to double quote posting date, have to double quote the text argument, and then close the quote to indicate that this is the entire string. And now this is actually what it should look like, I'm using air quotes, what it should look like were you just writing a function. But it is in fact a string. And then you could, if you wanted to, replace this with a cell reference. So now my formula looks like filter where the posting date is this and this crazy text string. Let me run my report here, just so we can see that it works. I do like this method of putting the calculated field as text in my top left. Obviously, if I were building this report for a client, I might put the text, the description of what this calculated field is above it. So I would say, oh, this calculates the day of week. But this act of putting the text into your report is kind of important. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, let's look at our results. Here's my data dump. I'm showing all of the different posting dates for all of my activity. Looks like it all came in on 6. Well, have a couple days in August, a couple days in November, but they're all Monday activity. And like I said, I would put the string, I would describe this as find the day of week. Okay. So that was a hard way of doing it. Let's talk about the easy way. The easy way of creating a calculated field is to use the quote feature that's been part of JET since forever, but nobody ever uses, to the point where it's been deprecated from the ribbon. So in one of the, I think 2015, JET 2015 gave you the ability to customize your JET ribbon. And one of the buttons you can choose to show or unshow, by default it is not shown, is the quote button. This guy. Those of you who've been using JET for many, many years have probably seen it and might be wondering, what does the quote button do? Okay. Imagine that I didn't go through all of this work here of how do you type it out by hand. The easy way of getting the calculated field formula is to build your basic report without the calculated field, express day of week as necessary, then copy and paste it into your top left. So I will call this find the day of week using the quote button. Okay, and that part's great, right? It obviously, you can't use this as a filter yet, but what you can do is you can click on the quote button, and then JET will convert this into a text. So you can see here, again, quote equals text C24, look at the double quotes around DDD just like we expect it, and then all you have to know how to do is replace C24 with an NF function for the field. So NF, comma, double quote, posting date, double quote, close parens, bam. This and this is identical. And you can, write it by hand, or you can use the quote button. All right. Let's talk about doing a sort by a calculation. All right. Well, sorting is, I mean, it's absurdly easy. If this is my function here, all I have to do is lead with a plus or a minus, right? That's actually all there is to it. Nothing fancy about it. You put a plus in front of the equal sign. And I know that's a little confusing. I know that's confusing to put that plus in front of the equal sign, but that's just how it works. If you were to do it after the equal sign, I mean, think about what you're telling an Excel function. You would be telling an Excel function equals +1 or something to that effect, and then obviously it would just, take out the plus sign. So the designers of JET, I'm sure, said, well, that's why we have to put it in front of the plus sign to indicate that this is a JET-specific sorting syntax. Okay, so that's sorting by a calculation. That was actually so easy that I'm not going to count that. What I am going to show you guys how to do is how to do a slightly longer calculation. I'm going to show you how to do, let's say you wanted to sort by days to close. Let's say you wanted to have a formula that showed days to close, and you wanted to have where days to close is, let's say, greater than 3. Something like this. So what is days to close? Well, days to close is, let's say, due date minus posting date. And actually, just to make sure that we have data that kind of makes sense here, due date is not the right, or sorry, days to close is not the right phrase for what this is, but you get the idea. I'm just doing some basic math here. Okay, the report did take a minute and a half to run. I didn't want to have you watch grass grow. So anyway, so here, according to my days to close, or what I've called days to close, I do have some values greater than 3. In fact, I have many values greater than 3 and very few values less than 0. So I think I'll increase my number to something like, I don't know, say 10. Maybe that's my KPI. I want to see everything that, I don't know, posted 10 days before it was due or something. So I'm going to show everything that is greater than 10. All right, so I'm going to do the shortcut. Well, yeah, I'll do the shortcut using the quote button. So this calculation is a super easy calculation. I'll just copy, paste it up here, and then I will quote it. And so then Excel gives me, or JET gives me equals, quote equals, and then B44 and C44. And like I said, you just have to replace these with your NF functions. So B44 should be NF, comma, double quote, due date, double quote, close quote. And C44 should be NF, comma, double quote, posting date. Pretty straightforward. I'll move this guy down here. And then I will just append my new filters, this and that. And so now, theoretically, when I run my report, I should only show activity where days to close is greater than 10. Let's see how I did. Oh no, not good. I've got some 5s and 8s and 7s and 6s in here. All right. Curiously, Jet didn't break. Jet didn't say, hey, Jay, your function is invalid. But it didn't like the result I'm returning. And the reason why is sometimes you have to tell Jet, hey, this value that I'm filtering on in E44 is a number. So to tell Jet that it's a number, what we're going to do is we're going to put a number ampersand in front of greater than 10. Let's see if that works. This number ampersand, this again is Jet specific syntax. You know, nowhere else in the world are you going to see this, but now with number ampersand concatenated in front of the greater than 10, I should no longer see 5s or 7s or 8s. I only see values that are greater than 10. Again, I had to tell Jet that, hey, this is a number that you're comparing greater than 10. So obviously, expecting your end users to remember number ampersand is never going to happen, right? So to build that into our report, what I'll do is I'll just say, well, you put in greater than 10, and what I'll do is I'll concatenate number ampersand in front of E44. And the end result is still the same. Okay. So again, that was the meat and potatoes behind building a sort by sum. Well, I guess I didn't do a sort. If I wanted to do a sort, obviously, again, I would just put a negative sign in front of the equal sign here. And then let's see if it actually sorts descending by the number of days to close. 31, 30, 28, 14, 12, 11. Again, you put the negative sign in front of the calc formula. By the way, this is standard syntax for me. If I put an explicit sort in my Jet reports, I will always indicate that inside of the formulas. So, you know, if I added the filter, oh, I want to do cell to customer number first, I want to sort by cell to customer number. Sorry, I can't type. I would always write it as instead of putting the minus sign here inside of the Jet function where it's not obvious what the sort order is, I usually try to remember to put equals, quote, negative here, like so that the negative side, so it's obvious what I'm sorting by, and then I'll do a cell reference for the name of the field. Or I'll do filters equals, either or. But again, this is so that users can explicitly see, oh, you're filtering by cell to, and then you're filtering by the due date. Because I love you guys so much, I'm going to do absolutely one last example. Hopefully I can get it right the first time so I don't have to restart this presentation a gazillion times. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to filter. Well, let's say we're the currency code where the sum of the sales invoice lines is less than 5. Sum sales invoice line is less than 50. Okay, fine. All right, so I copied my same NL rows function. Again, I'm using the customer ledger. And I think this is, I think, Mario, what you're probably closest to. You're saying, well, Jay, it's not just enough to have a calculation on the fields that are in the same table. I want to do calculations on fields in a different table, and on top of that, I want to sort by fields in that other table. All right. Like I said, the first thing you have to be able to do is express the function in your report. So how do I calculate the sum of the sales invoice lines? Well, first off, for the purposes of this report, I'm going to assume that the document type is an invoice, because if it's a credit memo, that obviously doesn't make sense. Okay, so let's find the document number. And then let's show the sum of invoice lines. So I'm going to do equals NL sum sales invoice line. I think it's amount LCY. I will filter by, oh God, that's going to make it a challenge. I'll choose to filter by posting date for extra challenge, and I'll filter by document number is this guy. And the cell to customer number is that guy. And then I will check my spelling. Okay, so it's not called amount LCY. Oh no, my function wizard doesn't work. I don't know what it is with this version of Jet, but for whatever reason, my function wizard doesn't work, which is also part of the reason why I haven't been showing you guys these functions in the function wizard. I know it makes it easier to read if you're not used to just reading it. I know you probably wouldn't do this, but I'll just use the amount field instead of amount LCY just for speed. All right. And $, copy. Let's just run our report and see that it actually returns some decent results first. Okay. Oh, no, that's days to close. All right, here's some sales invoice lines. I can see some of them are 0, others of them are well in excess of 50. So let's just pull the ones that are 0. Yeah, that'll be interesting. All right. So as I said, the first thing you have to do is be able to express the function that you're looking for as a JET function in your report first. Then we're going to copy, paste it up here into my top left. I'm not going to worry about circular reference errors or anything like that because, of course, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to quote it. I'm going to take this and I quote. Now, when it's quoted, right, again, Jet Jet/Excel puts in all the double quotes, and I just have to replace my cell references with NF functions as appropriate. So let's do the easy ones. Let's do document number. Document number is an NF comma double quote document number, because that's the name of the field in the customer ledger. And the same thing for cell to, NF comma double quote cell to customer number. If I were building if my base table was the customer table and I was going from the customer table to the invoice line, right, in the customer table, the field is just called number. So you use the name of the field in the base table. I hope that made more sense. Okay. Last thing to do is, what do I do about posting date? All right. This is where having your function actually exist outside of your jet function really helps, because as you read through this text has to read as, well, it has to read properly. And E42 is not a posting date. This is mistranslated, as it were. So what I need to see is I need to see 1, 1, 1. Where are my dates? Oh yeah, okay. So 1, 1, 2015, dot, dot, 12, 31, 31, 2015, double quote. That's what it needs to look like. And I'm, of course, this 1, 1, 2015, 12, 31, 2015, these are my report filter criteria, which somehow I've had wrong the entire time. Okay. So when I previously had, what was it? E42 $ in place, that did not read out as, is this E42? I'm sorry. Yeah, it is. That did not read out as 1/1/12/31/2015. So how do I get this to read as a cell reference? Well, I have to do an end quote, an ampersand, and a quote, right? Because the end quote says that's the end of this text, and the ampersand says concatenate. Here's my cell reference. Notice that it's glowing blue now, whereas previously it was not. So here it is, not glowing blue. And then as soon as I put close quote, ampersand, ampersand quote, now notice how it is blue again, and you can see, oh, I've got a box in the wrong place. There it is. Okay, so I press enter. And then as I look at it, this is how Excel is going to, or Jet rather, is going to translate my Excel string. But this is still also not correct because your argument needs to be wrapped in quotes. And again, circling back to our work with the Hobbit, you have to do a double quote. So this is a 1, 2, triple quote even. And again, 1, 2, 3, a triple quote. And now it's actually showing the right date range. Let me just review this one more time, because this is the final test, right? So again, you take your NL sum function. Take your NL sum function, or your function that you've articulated in your JET report, you quote it. Then you replace all of the cell references either with real cell references, so triple quote, ampersand, ampersand, triple quote. And you know your cell reference works when in your text you can actually see the value, the text for what is in E42. And then again, these guys you're just going to replace with NF functions, where you use the field name in the base table. Don't forget your double quotes. Okay, that's that. I'm just going to delete this guy because I just did that for review. And again, now I can add in my filter. Here and here. As long as this evaluates properly, you probably did the right thing. For the purposes of this, I'm going to take out, yeah, just so we can make sure that my sort order is actually doing what I want it to do. I'm just going to keep the filters posting date and document type. I'm going to take out cell 2. Yeah. Okay. And then remember, if you want to apply a sort, you have to put the sort before the equal sign. I'm going to do less than 5, 10,000, 20,000. And remember, sometimes you have to remind JET that E4 is a number, so we do number, ampersand, ampersand. We concatenate number, ampersand in front of our cell reference, and we test our report. Oh, please work the first time. I don't have to check this. Looks like my report did not run. What is going on up here? Cut that out. Don't do that. And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. JET reports, for whatever reason, started pitching a fit without actually giving an error message. But I just wanted to show you that it worked. So going down here to showing, here are my document numbers, sorting descending by sales invoice line sums. Again, I'm showing everything less than 10,000, and all the zeros are down at the bottom as we expected. Is it worth showing this? Yeah, okay, so for whatever reason, my report wasn't running, but it wasn't showing any value errors. I just chose to interpret that as I've got some sort of a corruption in my workbook. So I basically copied my JET reports into 2 separate workbooks. I've got my, the second half of stuff that I worked on first page, and my GL entry filter by posting date on the second page. Split them up, that's all. Good, so let's wrap this up. I think one of the hardest things that you're going to have after you understand how to use the quote button, I think one of the hardest things you're going to try to figure out is how do you read the syntax? And again, it's just Excel. So the better you are at reading Excel and understanding how Excel works, the better time you're going to have with these more robust, more complicated JET reports. Again, the first thing we had to learn how to do was use a double quote when you're inside of a string. I think that's really foundational to understanding these calc formulas. From there, we did a really basic date-based one where I just said we'll take a basic text function. This isn't even a JET function, just the text function, and then use that to calculate the day of a specific the day of the week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And again, I showed you how it's just a case of slowly building up this string function. We started by saying, oh, the DD needs to be wrapped in double quotes, and we just replaced this with the NF function. Again, this technique only works with nav. This will not work for GP. GP does have a sort by sum of, I believe, but I always left that one to Amy over at JET Reports USA. So Amy, if they come asking you about GP sort by sums, it's because they may have seen this video. And then to actually add the sort, again, it's before the equal sign. When you do sorting across different tables, the process is still very much the same. The only thing that makes it slightly difficult is this bit here where you have to make sure that your cell references actually read properly in your string as the date range in this case, or the cell to customer number, whatever you have in here, right? It has to be wrapped in quotes. And again, like we said with the name of the book is The Hobbit, you have to use double quotes, and then it's a piece of cake. That was a lot. Went a lot longer than I expected it to, but there you go. My name's Jay Wilson. I'm the lead JET Reports trainer and consultant over at Onyx Reporting. If you have any questions about the elusive sort by sum, well, 1, make sure to subscribe to the video, but 2, feel free to shoot me an email. Mario, if this answers all your questions, please give me a shout out on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, because as you know, recommendations and all that stuff, that's how you get the gigs. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Cheers. Bye.